Workshop meeting. Today is Wednesday, August 27th, and the time is 2:01 p.m. Would the city clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Here.
Commissioner Lister?
Here.
Commissioner Poe?
Here.
Commissioner Shantz?
Here.
Mayor Palladino?
Here. First topic, item A, Mr. City Manager, if you would proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick discussion on the utility undergrounding. I had attended a meeting with Steve Tart, who's our engineer under contract for this one, and Vince wanted to walk you through the financing of what at least we have planned currently. But I think we're learning, and we're going to have more information. Our information today is probably going to be somewhat vague, but my fear is this: if we spend $3.3 million, is what the roundabout number we're getting from the county, and still have utility lines running north and south, which is fine. But if the number comes in, let's say for another $2 million, you could bury everything. I think you need to take that into consideration. And so right now, it's one or the other. The latter part of that, there's no financing plan for, but I think Vince wants you to be aware of the fact that we're putting things in place. We have to borrow the $3.3 million and pay it back with the $3.3 million we're getting from the county. But, and Steve will have an update for you, but at this last meeting that I attended, it became apparent that we might be able to get a bargain if we do the whole thing, but we're going to have to borrow some more money, and that obviously involves you guys, and it's political and all of that. So with that, let's start with Vince, so he can just walk you through his short presentation, and then we'll hand it off to Steve, because I think the developments come in almost every day.
Well, basically what I need today, or what I'm looking for today, is consensus to move forward on advertising an RFP for the loan associated with this project. My plan, and is, basically I just want to float it by you guys, and we can formalize everything at a September or October regular meeting. But my plan is to work with the same financing team that we used for the October bond issue for the City Hall project, which includes the financial advisor, Jeff Larson, and bond counsel, Brian Miller-Olive. I think that worked really well. I don't have any need on my end to shuffle up the team at this point. I can definitely do that. Or otherwise, I can bring it back to you for formal approval, and we can just move forward under with the same team in place that we had back in October. So that's point one, and I just wanted to run that by you. When it gets to the actual issuing of the RFP, I have a $3 million bank RFP planned at this point to go out in the next couple of weeks. So that's going to come back to you for formal approval. This is just advertising an RFP. This doesn't commit us to anything. But the amount is approximately $3 million. It's basically the balance of what's available from the county at this point. So the idea is, for this first phase of the project, not considering what Shane was talking about, the goal is for the whole thing to just to have a neutral net impact on the city financially. So there may be times, depending on the county's funding schedule, where we're up, where we're down. It all just kind of depends on when the debt service is due versus when we get the funding back from the county. But at least at the end of 5 years, we'll be able to show that there was no net impact on the city's finances. So that's kind of the idea. We'll be pledging the county's revenue that they've agreed to in an interlocal agreement. I can tell you that I've already submitted 2 rounds of invoices to the county, and I think the process is pretty straightforward. The mayor's been involved with the Big C to get that whole thing approved. So there is some type of clause in that agreement that would allow the county to hold back that funding for any type of emergency, but assuming that doesn't happen, I have no reason to question the actual financing mechanism on the county side. So that's kind of the plan at this point. We're looking at a late September deadline for banks to respond to this RFP if you do give me the green light to move forward on it. And then I would bring that back to you all at the October regular BOC meeting. You guys would approve the actual interest rate and the actual deal itself, and then we would move forward on closing in late October, actually, about 12 months after finishing last fall's deal for the City Hall project. So that's the plan, and I'm willing to take any questions, have a conversation about it, whatever you guys tell me you want to do, we can definitely
Mr.
make that happen.
Mayor, if I can have the floor, from my seat, I don't see any reason why we would switch teams on who runs us through this work. You know, Vince has put in a tremendous amount of time on that, but they were nothing but good to us, and I think we did about as best as we possibly could on that. So certainly my recommendation from my seat is to keep that team intact. And then I think Vince hit it right on the head. I think the only real risk of not being paid back, if you will, by the county is if we, get creamed by a hurricane or something, unforeseen. So I certainly have trust that will come through. So I really want in your heads to keep, we got to stay the path that we're going to bury east-west, keep north-south going, but we're going to keep the door open or cracked a bit to see if at the end of the day, if a small lend would be able to bury the whole thing, you'll have to consider that, but that's for another day.
I just want to add one quick point related to that. So I think we all are under the impression that the odds of the county not reimbursing us are very low. But because that possibility does exist, we do have to support the deal with other pledged revenues. And so we would be doing that by pledging as a backup the same revenues that we pledged on the City Hall bond issue. So it's not a major issue, but at least for the short term, for the next few years, that will at least have a minor impact on the city's debt capacity for other deals. Doesn't necessarily mean that we can't do other deals in the future, but it will have an impact, so we'll just have to be aware of that.
Vince, to my knowledge, only Madeira Beach and Reddington Shores are the only two cities that are using beautification dollars that have actually put in and gotten drawings from the county. What was it, like a 2-week or 3-week process to be reimbursed from the time the bill
Yeah,
was put in?
I think it was 3 weeks. It's really quick. I've had plenty of conversations with the county about just letting them know where we're at, and I feel pretty good about that
Okay.
process.
And Mr. City Manager, have we sat with the members of the Big C to go ahead and go over our plan to see if it would be approved?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an undergrounding, so I imagine it would.
Well, it
be, but
certainly-
have
it
you
certainly
sat
fits
with
the
Mayor Simon- I believe it's
criteria,
Mayor Simon, to Mayor Queen.
Yeah, Vince and I think we've been through this drill twice
Okay.
now, maybe. Yeah, I mean, they were very in favor of it, that those guys are great. They kind of just held a special meeting and made the recommendation. So as far as the process goes, we've been complete in that.
Right.
Would we be doing just like Reddington Shores?
Yes,
I mean, the complete undergrounding of Gulf Boulevard?
No.
North and south?
And it's
Just
Indian
east-west.
Shores.
I mean,
Yeah.
Indian Shores, yeah.
No, right now, we're sticking to the plan of burying everything except you'll see wires north and south with new ornate poles.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about today, and I apologize if there's any confusion. The possibility exists that between now and the time that this project gets going, and we have to get estimates from all the power companies and that type of thing, and Steve will probably be able to explain this much better than me, the possibility exists that you may be able to, instead of paying for new poles and doing that, you could offset some costs, so at the end of the day, there might be only a net cost of, let's say, $2 million to bury the whole thing. You need to have that option available to you. Obviously, Vince and I would have to present a financing plan, so the ability to do so, it might be there, but that's not what we're talking about today. Right now, we're sticking to the plan where you'll have, it'll be prettier, but it's not gonna be entirely buried.
Okay, I'm just a little bit confused there.
Yep, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And I should have just started the whole thing by trying to make it a little bit more simple. I just want to be sure that everyone understands the only reason we're going out to borrow any money is because otherwise we would be approaching the project on an incremental basis, trying to do it at a couple $100,000 at a time, waiting for the revenue to come back, and the whole project would be contingent on when we get the funds. The idea of borrowing is that we have the money available, we can proceed with the construction, and I'll worry about the reimbursement schedule and matching that to the debt service. But this way, the actual project is not impacted by the financing.
Vince, am I correct in saying that in the beginning, when the county went ahead, and I know when we went in front of the county to get the funding for the beautification, it was a 6-year program, and we're in year number 2 of that, and I think we rolled over one of our payments already, so we actually
That's
have
correct.
some credits in the bank on that?
Correct.
Is that about $300,000, if I'm correct? I can't forget what, I know what our total was, like $3.3 million from the county for beautification.
3.3 total. We're planning to roll over again.
Yeah.
So next year's balance is, at least
That-
tentatively,
600 or something?
No, it's more than that.
Closer to 800,000.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea is,
Right.
whatever we don't use, we roll forward to the next
And-
year.
And I get the idea in going up front like this, because all this is done, I know the city's talked about doing this for over a decade, and it started out at $1 million a mile, and it's just gotten up and gotten up, so being able to go ahead and do this, take care of it, I
Well,
think
to do it
it's-
incrementally, think about that.
Yeah, I
That
know.
It just would be,
Oh, very
it's very,
expensive.
very difficult
Like
for
pulling
what
teeth with
government can borrow
pliers.
money for these days. Let's do it, get it done. We basically are paying the debt service with somebody else's money. I mean, money that's due us, but you follow me. So it's really, the way that we're going about this is certainly correct from the seat that I stand in or sit in. So if you're okay with that, but then going back to that team of finance people that we used on that last bond, I just don't see any reason to shift from that, as long as it pleases the commission.
And Vince, I guess something else to look at or talk, or if you can, I know that if we wouldn't get into any kind of issues of looking at if we got some kind of loan to pay it off early, because I know that the BOC and the TDC are joining together to actually put together getting more beautification dollars for Golf Boulevard. So as we go on, there might be some more funding out there to where
what
if we
we
do
need.
this, being able to pay it off early without any penalties.
Yeah, we're definitely going to structure this so that we can pay it back early.
Right, okay.
Or that additional money, Mayor, could be the money that you use to do it in its entirety.
Exactly,
So
that's
you're gonna
what
have
my thoughts are.
options
Yeah,
as
we
this
go on,
goes
there will be
along, but I
options.
think it's important to stick with Plan A and then handle Plan B as the numbers pour in. Steve, I don't know if you want to allude to any of that?
Yeah, just briefly. So as we've been going through the project, we are actually going to, from 150th to 155th, we're actually going to bury that all underground. And basically that's turned into a test project for us, because we think we can get that all under the sidewalks, which will eliminate easements for only where we need to put switch gears and transformer boxes. If we can get under the sidewalk there, then we're confident we can do under the sidewalk the rest of the distance of the city. And that's where Shane alludes to the fact that it would be less expensive to do the whole thing underground if that proves out.
And
So-
less easement acquisition.
Oh, the easement acquisition completely turns on its head, because it'll be a few easements versus 300-plus easements. Well, we won't know that. Duke Energy has submitted their invoice to do their binding estimate for that area. We should hopefully have that back in 45 to 60 days. Once we do that, then we will, we're actually in the plan, we're drawing the plans, and then we'll get the construction dollars together, and we'll underground that portion. I'm hoping sometime after, first quarter maybe. If all the stars line up, first quarter, we might get that underground. During that construction process, we'll verify whether what we think is true, and if that is, then we'll be back and talk about doing the whole thing.
We're talking about all the way from north to south.
Correct.
See, some years ago, when we discussed it,
Mm-hmm.
there was always a problem of the east side of the boulevard. That's where they had to run the line.
Right.
And now, is this a new idea that
Well,
they
it's
run it under the sidewalk?
for us. It's always we're planning on going underneath the west side sidewalk.
But see, that was always a snag. That was
Right.
a big.
And maybe a
problem.
little bit of that snag is that Tico's line, gas line, runs down the west side. But
Uh-huh.
we've been in talks with Tico, and they're fine with us being close to them and next to them, and actually willing to work with us in areas that they might have to move a little bit.
Good.
So everybody's being very cooperative at this point.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we're hoping that it works out.
Wonderful.
Does the commissioner have any questions?
Just for Vince, the money that we roll over every year that we don't take, if the, God forbid, the county has an emergency, do they have to pay that, at least what we've got rolled over? Or are they gonna take the rollover money too? I mean, I'm not saying that they will.
Yeah,
In case of emergency, how does that
I'm not
work?
entirely
What's
sure what that clause looks like. I just know that it
advantage of rolling
exists,
over?
and there's at least that possibility that we have to be aware of, that if we submit a reimbursement request, it's not 100% certain that we're going to get the funds.
I think
just
I'm
depending on
following
what's
you,
out
though.
there.
Right now, we've been rolling it over because you have to spend it to get it. So I think what he's saying is, if we roll it over and let's say we have an $800,000 balance and we borrowed the $3 million, can you make an $800,000 payment on that loan so that there's never any money sitting there in the county coffer that may get pulled if we don't spend it?
Well, I can only submit requests for what we've spent.
Right.
So basically, I'm going to be impacted entirely by the construction
By the-
drawdown schedule. So as fast as that project moves, I'll be submitting invoices as quickly as possible to the county.
So with the addition of our additional revenue from parking, we have around, what, $2 million for debt reimbursement? to work with? Because I think we had 1.5 million the last time we were talking, and you were gonna take 20% of that for a $300,000 debt service. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, just back that up for me real
How
quick.
much
So,
money do we have for debt service if we want to borrow the additional $2 million? Say we want the $5 million. Do we have enough non-ad?
I haven't looked at that
Okay,
finance plan to
okay.
do the extra 3. I mean, I can
We'll-
definitely
we'll
run
talk
that and
about that.
let you know, but I haven't got that far yet.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Thanks, Vince.
Yeah, my preference, just so we're all aware, my preference is if we do that part of the project, let's do it separately. This should be structured to just take advantage of the county's funds, make it as simple as possible, pledge those revenues, and then if we do want to come back
I agree
and
with
do
you
another
totally,
segment
but
of
the
the
cost
project.
for adding that $2 million is negligible because, you know, I've refinanced a lot, and refinancing costs is the same whether you're doing, you know, 200,000 or 500,000, basically. You know,
Yep.
it's still gonna save us money if we get it all in a lump sum. Do you have any idea what interest rate we're looking at? Are we low fours?
At least initially, we've been looking around 3.
Yes.
You know,
See, that's
hopefully that'll.
fantastic. So it's
hopefully
just a
that'll
good time to
hold.
borrow money.
Yep.
And if we're gonna do it, you know, as opposed to making that cost again, when we want to go back for the other 2 million, it would behoove us to, well, hopefully, we can get it done for the figure we're looking at.
Yeah.
But that's obviously down the road. I'm good, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions from the commission?
Can we get a consensus on
That's-
him
that's what I was gonna do.
moving forward, but both parts sticking with the same bonding group, or financing group, and then?
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
appreciate
so
it.
I will be advertising an RFP in the next couple of weeks, and when the responses come back, I'll bring that to you all for approval in probably at the October regular meeting is what I'm planning on.
Fantastic.
All right, next, item B, Madam City Clerk.
You have the applications for the planning commission. We received 3. And you have the ranking sheets that if you would just rank them in the order that you prefer and get them back to me by Friday, and I will
So
tell you.
you have two open seats, 3 applications. I believe our incumbent is in the audience. So you rank them 1 through 3. Amy, is there a deadline that you want these
Friday.
back? by?
One being the favorite or 3 being the favorite?
One being
One
your
is your
first
first, your absolute favorite, down to 3
Okay.
being your least favorite.
Okay.
Did you want to speak, or? Oh, just came along. I got you. Yeah.
Is there any questions for the city clerk on this? No? Okay. Next, item C is, I guess we covered that,
C and D.
C and D, so is everybody good on C and D through D on the sheet?
Now, you
So
still,
like
you still
each-
need to vote. So the
Right.
decision should be simple. There's one candidate for each and one
Right.
open seat, but we still have something on record that you voted and they got the majority of the vote of the BOC.
Okay. All right, next, item E, Commissioner Poe.
You want to start this one off, Shane? or
Well, you want me to kick it off?
Yeah, you kick it off and I'll finish it.
Commissioner Poe, yeah, we all know, she has her pet projects, and she's really spent a lot of time on this water issue, and I think, everyone's probably gotten complaints about what we've got in our water, and the more that I've worked with, and Steve is our engineer on this one as well, and with Commissioner Poe, the cause of it is still undetermined. And the more that I think about it, the more it could be a problem right here in Madeira Beach with a broken pipe under the water doing it. It could be the boats, but it could also be the way that our water flows. They could have a problem up in Clearwater Beach, and it's just ending up here because of the geography of everything that's happening. We got a proposal from Steve to do some additional water testing and really determine what we're dealing with. There's a gentleman in town who's very good to the city. He did some of his own testing after he had shot off some fireworks for the 4th of July and pulled the device that he shot off out of the water, and it looked like human waste, but it really wasn't. It was just the murky nastiness at the bottom. Muck is the word I was looking for. So, long story short, we got a proposal. It was quite expensive, but it was expensive because it was intensive. It was really getting down to the nitty-gritty of what we're dealing with here. I would recommend against that. I think at this point it's a significant amount of money for what I think we pretty much already know. But I spoke with Commissioner Poe before the meeting, and she's going to make this, I think, a bigger deal with her goings-on at the Capitol and stuff like that. I think we want to eliminate one possibility, and that's the hurricane hole area where we've got a lot of boats sitting there, and what are they doing? So we're gonna, if Commissioner Poe, if I follow you right, we're gonna ask CPWG for a different proposal to
Correct.
just do some testing, and maybe Elaine, you can talk to Steve and you can literally pinpoint where you want, and then we'll proceed with that, with that. So today we were gonna discuss this, a macro type proposal, which was gonna be quite expensive. I don't think we're ready for that. I think we wanna downsize this and start eliminating, checking off some possibilities off the list. And so, I don't know, Commissioner Poe, if I hit it on the head there, or?
You pretty much hit it on the head. The plus side we have this year in Tallahassee is they are finally going to put a bill on the table for a legal discharge of boats. So this is very crucial as far as I'm concerned to narrowing this down, so that when I do go to Tallahassee, I have something I can say, this is our problem.
Well, I think the idea being, because of that, you want to eliminate the idea that it's the boats causing this, because then we have to move on to another bill and another issue that's doing it. So I think it's going to be the process of elimination for quite some time, but at least this one takes that part of it out. So, Steve, I think if you followed us there, meet with Commissioner Poe after the meeting, possibly, if you can stick around, and let's just nail out a couple of them. And I think we still need to it's difficult to discuss at a public meeting. We want to know what that substance is and if it's coming from.
Do you know who's sponsoring that bill?
Not yet. He'll get flowers from me.
We're obviously working with other agencies that do water quality closely. I mean, you know, the county does it and the state does it, so I just don't want to duplicate our efforts.
We're not.
We're not, that's why we're doing it this
the-
way as opposed to the other.
The other part of this, and Dave and I had a very difficult meeting with a gentleman that, you know, had the deer in the headlights look on his face, and it was the county. This could be a county problem. You know, I forget can you tell me the word quick, the pipes under the water basin? Subaqueous pipe, you know, but it could be broken in Madeira Beach, it could be broken in Clearwater Beach, and it's just flowing our way. So I like Elaine's approach, Commissioner Poe's approach about, let's just start checking a couple of things off the list until we really need to go to the county and say, listen, folks, you got a problem, and we don't want to close our beaches over it.
All right. Next, item F, review of proposed EMS contract. Fire Chief O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayors and Commissioners. What you have in front of you is a multi-year contract for our first response advanced life support services that we're providing to our community. This contract includes not only funding, but also EMS training and the supplies that we use on a daily basis. It's a 3-year contract with the possibility of a 2-year extension. As you remember, originally the county was looking at cutting funding to all of the first responders, all of the fire departments here within Pinellas County. After a lot of negotiation and wrangling back and forth, this is the final product. It offers a slight increase in our funding over the 3 years and provides a very stable funding source for us to help supplement our fire department.
So, Chief, do I understand this? So we're all kind of getting the same deal that St. Pete got?
It's similar to St. Pete. It's not
So
the
we're
same
not having the
funding.
reserve thing, but the funding's still the same?
The funding is very similar to St.
Okay.
Pete. That's the difference. That's where a lot of the confusion and problems came in with the county, is they were funding each department differently, but each department has to justify their budget and it has to be accountable to that. And this is a very defendable budget in a proposal we have in front of us.
And also, we've been able, and I know this probably is not under the same contract, working with anything on the county, and I noticed discussions come up with Bruce Moeller from EMS to get additional funding for water safety and water rescue equipment.
That's something that's still being discussed at the county level.
All right. And actually, folks, just to let the commission know, like Chief, been doing a fantastic job with Craig Hare and Bruce Moeller, and I know that I've kind of been hitting it on the other side on EMS with the county. And they came out with a water rescue for Pinellas County, and it was very, very awakening when you looked at the areas with water rescue. Madeira Beach was the largest area in Pinellas County. So looking at funding and asking the county for additional funding for water rescue, safety, training, and rescue, I think the county really needs to look at it seriously on that one,
Agreed.
since it's their report they put out.
Any other questions?
Down, this 14-15 compensation, isn't that down about, wasn't it about $386,000 before?
What did we get last year, Vince? You have it?
I thought we got 386,000.
Yeah, this current year, we had 363,000, and we have a 5% increase scheduled for next year, 380,000.
Didn't know we got prior to that. There's some figure buzzing around in my head that we got $386,000 sometime along the way.
That may have been, if it was up that high, it must have been 3 or 4 years ago.
Pat, it was actually 2011.
Is that
Remember
what
it completely,
Do you
yes,
remember
ma'am.
that figure?
Yes, ma'am, I
It
do.
rings in
Actually,
my
that one
head,
have
and
that
I
one
know.
in my head for some reason. But you're
Yeah.
right, it was. And then it dropped, and I know that they were looking at a drop this year, and that's when the whole reserve thing with St. Pete worked out and the
Correct.
additional. So I know that y'all, what do we have, 17 different fire districts here in Pinellas County?
That decreased time was during my little sabbatical away from the city, so.
Yes, sir. But I think we're good. I mean, are you happy with what's?
Is this good for a year, Chief?
It's a 3-year contract with the possibility of a 2-year extension.
I see. So we're gonna support it after the 3 years, do you know?
I
We'll
think
see
we
what
want
happens between now
we
and
want to
the end
take
of
an evaluation of it at that
years.
time, but
Absolutely.
the way that this was looking, this is a much better version than what we had,
Yeah.
not too long ago, so we're definitely going to recommend its approval at its.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
I got it.
Well,
Not
by the
bad.
time we get to
Not bad.
2016, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes, looking better.
And possibly by 2016, you might be looking at fire transport
There might be,
from
it'll be a
watching
whole
what's happening
different.
at the county
Which
commission
is-
right now.
In
exciting.
3 years, the game will be
Yeah.
completely different, and
Yeah.
so, we'll
I was
just have to
hoping
take
we'd move in
evaluation.
that direction.
I agree.
Yeah, I know.
I agree.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chief, thank you, sir. Next, item G, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, my name's on that one, but I think that was just requested by you. I don't know if you want to run
And
that
I
one.
apologize to Commissioner Lister, because I know Commissioner Lister also wanted to put a little input. And I know that we're getting an FDOT beautification grant for Gulf Boulevard, and I know there's been some discussion of what is happening in those islands, and I thought we were shooting for palm trees, as many as possible. I know I'm not sure about this up in San Key. I was up in San Key this morning for the Big C, and looking at the islands through there and looking at the palm trees through there, some of their islands are actually smaller than some of ours, and they actually have 2 palm trees in it. Are we restricted by
You
size
are-
of islands, so what you can put in it?
You are. You're restricted. Dave and I went through this nightmare very early on in my tenure. Yes, the quick answer is yes. But I think if you are telling us that with these grant dollars, and we've got a $10,000 grant coming in, and then there's another possible, I think it's either 25 or 50. I can't remember which of that one.
I think it's actually getting closer to 60.
Okay. If you're telling us, Shane, we want as much green space and as many palm trees as you can get in those islands, I think that was the direction from y'all at one point. There are restrictions, but the argument can be made, like up in Reddington Beach or one of the Reddingtons, they have very wide islands and you can have a couple of them. We'll put them wherever you want them, Mayor, if that's what you're asking, but there are some restrictions that you have to live by. We're going to try to do that early on, a couple of years ago, and
In my own,
FDOT governs that.
I just have a question. Is there going to be irrigation put in these
Yeah.
islands too?
Yep. When they do, right down the middle of it, yeah.
So it's just unrestricted height. They had to be over 13 feet or
Well,
something.
it's not only height, it's got, there's vision triangle issues, the base of the tree, there's a bunch of them. So almost every time, you have to put a proposal together, and then they'll evaluate it. You may have to shuffle them back and forth a little bit, but I think we still have, everybody's on the same sheet of music when it comes to let's make them as beautiful as possible with as much, grass, not shell, and as many trees as you can get, that type of thing.
I take everybody's happy with that on the commission.
Yeah,
Less is
Absolutely.
good.
Okay.
Less is
Anything
more.
good.
On that
Let's
one.
go with that.
All right, and that'll lead us right into my next question. Item H, progress of construction on Gulf
Yeah, I won't
Boulevard.
hang out, Mr. Marsicano, hang him out to dry here. There's, what we did get was a very detailed email from them, and we put it into memo form so that you guys can share it with any constituent that you want. Dave's been attending all the progress construction meetings. We've been staying on top of it. Bob Esposito from the FDOT works hand in hand with me and the mayor as our liaison. It's coming along beautifully. If you see the memo, it's literally depicted by the week. Dave's been going to the meetings. I don't know, Dave, if you got anything to add?
They're going to do an overlay, a 1-inch overlay. That's the question you had, from
Half-inch.
Johns Pass all the way to 155th. So it's not a complete mill, but it is a 1-inch overlay that's going to,
And if I understand it correctly with my conversations with Bob.
Right.
Zito, the half-inch overlay is just, this is a temporary thing. They're just putting this down. It's going to make the road pretty. They're putting the bike lanes in. Everything will look like it's the finished product. And they're actually waiting on us, I think it's a year and a half from then, because of us, what we're doing with our undergrounding with
Right.
the east-west power lines. Then they'll come in, mill the road, bring it to the proper height, because for a year, those stormwater drains and the sewer drains on Gulf Boulevard are going to be lower. So that was my, another thought, is the county's not going to actually come in and lift those up.
No.
They'll turn around in a year and a half from now, lower them back down.
No, and if you remember, we got CPWG, they're lap certified. They'll be running that project for us.
Right.
And Steve's kind of been on, fast forward, if you will. We want to get this utility project off the ground and rolling. So this half-inch overlay is, I think, for the purpose of just marking the street.
Yeah.
right,
That's
exactly.
my
Just to
understanding.
make
It's
it
gonna make it look
usable
pretty.
until, it'll
Half-inch or
be
1 inch?
It's a half-inch.
half-inch.
I thought it was 1-inch.
Half-inch, it's in the email.
I'm just asking. Dave says a 1 inch and you say half. I'm just
Say it
wondering.
out.
The
It
final,
says half-inch on the email. I see
final
that.
step will be a half-inch overlay. Let me
half-inch.
know if you have any questions. So it's just enough to mark the street. I mean, there's no reason to put any more material into it if we're just going to chew the road up in a year.
I have a quick question, not so much on the road, but on the crosswalks. The one at 145th across from the county park was supposed to have been shortened. It wasn't.
It was.
You still, not enough that you can still get down 144th and turn into the condos.
They shortened it as much as they possibly could. They shortened it by 10 feet.
Why does it have to be so big?
That's their restriction. FDOT is one of those that they ask for this and they settle for this. We got this. We did it, the mayor and I actually, it was funny because we took Bob Esposito out in a truck and there was a car in front of us and we couldn't get in behind that car without our tail sticking out and
That's
out in that
correct.
lane. So it's not ideal. They realize that, but we got every inch out of them to shorten it up as far as FDOT would. But you get to a certain point where FDOT's like, listen, it's our road, it's our island, we're doing what we're gonna do.
And they didn't lower the lights either on that particular
That's
one.
not ready to,
It's not ready yet.
Those
No.
new lights haven't been put in. All
Okay.
of them are going to those digital
those
LED.
digital
I
LED
know.
They
ones.
just have, that's another phase, and it's probably laid out in the.
It's in this email.
Yeah, it's in the construction.
Oh, good, because unfortunately, I'm already getting phone calls.
Yep, so.
And you gotta give them a minute. You gotta give them a little time.
By November, you'll have everything pretty much done, and then they'll do that overlay.
Jane, I just have one thing to say. It's not on the Gulf Boulevard construction, it's on the Normandy. Oh, it's almost done. They've done a terrific job. I've heard nothing but good things about it. And right now, oh, you haven't?
No, I
I was
got,
next to him in a conversation.
I got chewed out yesterday
Oh,
over it,
no.
but not everybody understands the process of it. It's certainly not in its final product.
Well, they're moving all the way down to Island Drive now.
Yep.
And we've had door hangers now put on all the doors about the water being
The water
turned
being
off
off, yeah.
tomorrow. But I've heard nothing but positive things.
I'm glad.
Sorry you
because-
got some
No,
negativity, but.
I was telling the mayor, everyone wants to know when their roads are gonna be repaved because they want a new road, but while the process of having a road done in front of your house or behind your house is a nightmare. Everything's dirty,
Right.
loud noises, blah, blah, blah. So, they wanted it, but now that it's happening, there are some upset people. But there seems, it's not aesthetically pleasing yet, but they had to do it in sections, and then they go over the top, and it'll be a very nice, pretty road. So they just gotta wait for the final product. But I appreciate that. We haven't had a lot of complaints, but whenever you do a project like that, you're gonna get something, so.
They've all been aware of what's
That-
going on
The
whole
engineer on that
time.
one is Al Carrier. He's been fabulous. He's taken care of a lot of the public relations
Yes,
part
he
of that for
has.
us. He's
I
fantastic.
know, he's personally gone to a couple neighbors down there and
Yep.
spoke with them.
Yep, and
I've
he's
heard
working
about
with
that.
everybody, the contractor's working with people. If, we have to restore their property to what it was when we did it, but if you want to upgrade, your approach to pavers, the contractor will do that for an upcharge, and so they've been as accommodating, I think, as any company I've ever worked with, so.
Okay.
Very cool. Next, discussion on key to the city presentation procedures, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, I can start that, and
Let Tom
maybe.
finish it.
Well, you tell me, Mr. Mayor. We've run into a couple of situations where, and it's a difficult position for the mayor to be in, because sometimes there's an element of surprise that you want to give to somebody getting a proclamation or maybe a key to the city, and it's very appropriate. And right now, our rules dictate that the mayor needs to ask permission of the Board of Commissioners to give a key to the city to somebody. And I would say, I don't see that being necessary. I don't know if, I didn't have a chance to talk to Tom about this, but I would certainly, and you get to change your rules after every election, so, you know, if we had a mayor that was getting out of control and giving a key to everybody, you know, we could certainly change back. But we have a couple of circumstances that we'd like to, to make it more of a surprise and a ceremonial type thing. You could ask that the mayor report back if he ever gave a key to the city away that wasn't in front of the commission. But, you know, obviously, for him to report back to the commission that he gave the key, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be here in a commission meeting room. So I would certainly recommend it. It certainly would make things, I think, easier and maybe even a little bit more flexible, if you will, for the mayor. So I don't know if anybody's got any problem with that or if the city attorney takes an issue with that, but we'd certainly recommend it.
No, I think that's the mayor's prerogative if he wants to give somebody a key to the city. We shouldn't have to do stuff. That's nonsense. You know, that is.
It's just on the books
absolute
now, that's all he's saying,
nonsense.
just on the books.
Yeah, I
Should have
think,
put that in a book.
well, I think we wrote it in.
It was you, Pat.
Yes, I can
I
guess.
thought it was you.
Huh?
I thought it was you when you were mayor.
It was
No.
Well, we talked
Didn't even
about.
have a key when I was a mayor.
Well, that I think you just hit it on the head. You know, we used to, we didn't really have a key to the city, and then when we did, it was almost like, I don't want to be insulting, but it was like a keychain. This is a little bit different now. This is a big deal, and I think you guys do a very good job of recognizing people and when people deserve something like that. And now the key is this big, and, you know, you get your picture in the paper, and it's a big deal. So it's changed. It's the process has evolved a little bit, but it's in the personnel procedures. It's actually in the packet, I believe. Or it isn't? All right. Are you sure it's not? It's in my packet.
We have a book.
Oh,
that
it's
does-
under,
have books.
oh, maybe you guys got your books before
all
me.
have books.
I can read it for you, and Tom, you can take a look at it. They're over my shoulder here. Under the roles of the mayor, it said may issue proclamations and award the key to the city only after formal action is taken by the commission. And I would recommend that we say may issue proclamations and award the key to the city, period.
That's great, that's a good deal.
I
That's
think
Okay with that.
if you're all right with that, and then you guys, you do a review of your own rules after the election, so if, like I said, if somebody gets out of control, we can always rein them in, but if we can just take a second, Tom's checking on a piece of code that may prohibit this or allow for it.
I don't think there's any rule given it.
Yeah, we may only be able to change them once a year, rules and procedures.
Well, it's done by resolution, so I think we should be okay.
It's not in the charter.
Yeah, I don't think so, so this is just their rules and procedures. So in that case, if Tom can't find something in the charter that would prohibit it, we'd we'd ask Tom to draft an amendment to that resolution that approves that, taking those couple of words out, allowing the mayor to do it at his leisure.
You
That's
get
like the
consistency.
inspector inspecting the inspector. We never used to have that kind of crap
Yeah.
years ago when I was.
If,
I mean, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff to
if
me
you
is
vote for
just
the mayor, you
nonsense.
should have enough confidence to let
I
him
think he-
choose
That's
who
right.
can
I
get a
mean,
key for that.
we are elected up here to do a
Yeah,
job. We ought to have enough
exactly.
sense.
I'm glad you're back, Terry. I was getting kind of lonely up here, you know?
Are you saying you didn't like to be here?
Oh, no.
That's it, double figure.
Just I was feeling a little lonely, but that was good.
There's nothing in the charter.
And then,
All right.
No, there's not, I
So
don't think there's
if
anything.
everybody's okay with that, and give the city attorney, I think I even asked the city clerk to start drafting a quick amendment, so we can pass this at the next meeting, Mr. Mayor, and then the couple of things that I think you have in the queue, just let us know and we'll agendize that. And then before I shut up, I think I screwed up and omitted something on the agenda. Elaine Poe's been spending a lot of time, as you all know, about the short-term rental thing, and we've made some progress. John Luckett is on training week, and so we're going to have an update by Commissioner Pohl at the next BOC meeting instead of holding a special meeting. She's going to give you an update. In fact, I'm sure things will change probably between now and then, too, that she'll even have more information. But we're certainly making progress, but I think it's becoming more and more of an issue, and I think that that's what Commissioner Pohl wants to allude to all of you. So the next meeting, we'll probably take a good 15, 20 minutes to have a conversation about that. My apologies for not having it on the agenda.
That's okay, we'll wait. It's not going away.
No, that's true.
Gonna be around, right?
Yeah, it'll be here.
All right. Seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 2:41.